Hi folks, my name is Jake. You've come to Canadian Cutting Edge. Thank you so much for stopping by for the full review of the Hapstone V7. I did the unboxing video of this device almost exactly a month ago, and so now I've done a ton of sharpening with it. At least 30, 35, probably more knives than that I've sharpened with it. And this system is quite simple. That's a good thing. Easy to use, and it has some quirks. It has some pluses. It has a few negatives. If you're interested in finding out more about it, stick around for the full review of the Hapstone V7. I hope that you can clearly see everything here. I tried to set it up so that it's not too busy in the background, but looking side on this, it might be a little challenging, but it's the best I can do with the stuff that I have. All right. So the V7 stands for, this is their 7th version of this sharpening system. That's a good thing. That means they've had lots of time to perfect the device. This is the 7th time they've come out with something that's sort of like this, well, a sharpening system for them. And they've made some improvements to this that I like quite a bit. One of the biggest improvements is square. And they emphasize it quite a bit if you look at their advertising. This square stem here for the where the stone holder is a really good thing because it really helps you to put the stones on straight. Before I get too deep into it, how much does this thing cost? Well, I got mine from Gridomatic. They sent it to me to test. It retails for $239 US, and there was absolutely no charges when I received it in the mail. I can't remember if it was mailed or courier. Anyhow, there was no fees for me to pay when I got it. For that $239, you get a set of 3 stones. This is a 220, this is 400 and 1200, and that's what you get with that for that price. And these are relatively decent stones. So let's keep talking about this. Some other changes. I'm not totally familiar with all of the changes because I'm not one of those guys to memorize lists. So I'm just going to talk about what this thing has. And if you know about older versions, you will notice some of the differences, I'm sure. So not only do you have a square stem here for the stone holder, you got a square rod here that sits in a square receiver. And you've got a thumb screw that holds it in place. And this is the kind of thumb screw that they use. And I'll show it to you. I'm just taking it out here from the base right now. They've got this kind of thumb screw. And so there's threads there, and then you've got a large screw, and it's metric in case you need to replace it. Do these work? They're probably adequate for well over, probably over 2/3 of people that I can think of. But there's some of us that either have a little bit of arthritis in our hands, or for whatever reason, we need something a little more substantial. I'll show you a picture of the type of screw that I want to get for it. This would be okay if it was probably 3 times thicker, because then I'd have a whole lot more knurling that I could grab onto and get a grip of. I find that I can't grip this well enough to tighten it. So I've had some of these screws come loose while I was using the system. And it could also be my own fault that they came loose. Easily it could be my fault. And one of the things that I could blame for it is it came loose when I was reprofiling a bevel, and I was just going too hard, and I was doing too much of that impact of banging into the back. And instead of, just gentle strokes where the odd time you just, employ that spring a little bit and bump it a little bit. And so I was working it very hard when it did come loose. So it might be my fault. But you've got those screws over here, and let me show you everything here on the stem. So the stem gets screwed in place there. Since it's square, it holds it very well, perfectly. You've got 2 different adjusters here. You've got this plate. The reason you have this is if you're going to use stones of 2 different thicknesses for one job. let's say I was using my stones that come with it to start with, and then later on to finish it off, I might have some really high grit stones that are different, built differently. And if you can see, those stones are a different thickness by, well, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch probably. So what you can do is you start off with the stones and you leave 1/8 of an inch here, if that's the direction that it's going. You really need 3 of these. Well, you need 2 of these adjusters to do it the full way that I think that they should have it. They could easily ship it with another. This way it only works if you're going from a thinner to a thicker stone. So you use a thinner stone first, and then you go into a thicker stone so you can do the adjustment. So now you can put this down to adjust for that thicker stone. So here's a close-up of what I mean. So you've got this space here. You make that space. You use your angle finder to determine that space. So you set it up with the main stone that you're using, and then you put in the other stone that you were going to use and make this space the adjustment for it. And that way all you have to do is loosen that and go down. And then when you want to go back to that other stone, you go back up. Having 2 of these would be really good. That way when you go back up, you know exactly what level to go to. So I think they should include 2 spare stones, 2 spare sizes, not just 1. And on this side, now you can see these numbers. There's a 35, and so there are numbers on the side here, and you can use those to go back to your distance. But if you're in a space between where there isn't a number, you're not necessarily going to get that exact size. So 1 of these to go down, 1 of those to go back up to whatever thickness you had would be a very good thing. So I hope they start shipping them with 2 of these. It's got a compensation for changing the thicknesses of your stone during a job. So that's a good thing. Okay, so let me demonstrate putting a stone on here. You've got this adjustment here. This slider slides as far as you want, anywhere you want. So you can put on a very short little stone all the way up to 21 centimeters. That's 8 1/4 inches long. It's pretty uncommon to find stones that are that long. But, you know, let's say we want to use one of these stones that comes with it. You've got a spring back here that holds it. So what I do is I put this here and I put it up snug. That's loose, right? That would just fall off if I tightened it. And now I move it forward about 1/4 of an inch or so, tighten it down, and then I pull back on this spring arm, put that in place, and snug it up. And this is where I really like this being square. So I can push down on the stone onto there, and it is flat and nice, and everything is all trued up, and everything is square, and it's holding it very well. The next thing I do is I adjust these, and you can see these little springs here, I hope. If not, I'll show you a close-up picture. And so the spring is there so that when I go to the end of the stroke, it takes some of the impact of bumping in right here. And so then I'm as far as I can go that way, and as far as I can go that way. And I can just adjust these springs, adjust the whole arm very easily, whichever way I want to go. So that's, you know, a really good thing. Now, by the way, there's a hanger here that you can swing any way you want, and it works very well to hold on to the stone, the rod. So I've got the stroke adjusted. Now I need to adjust the angle. And so you really do need to get a digital angle finder if you want to do this easily. So I turned it on and I put it on the base. This nice thick base plate is my main angle finder. And so I put it on the base and I zero it out. Okay, so now it's at 0, and I lift it off, and I like to move my stroke as forward as I can, because here where it says Hapstone, is where I put that down. And that holds it. Because this is aluminum, it's not going to hold it. There's a tiny little steel plate there so that my angle finder will hold it. And so right now, I'm at 22.6 degrees between the base plate and this angle here. Okay, so I've got this on the side now. So you can see there's the base plate and the stone like this. The next piece of paper that I'm going to show you will be this perspective right here. So this here is the base plate for the Hapstone. This knife, this yellow piece of paper, is the knife. So this is a cross section of the knife. There's your cutting edge right there, and it goes all along, very long. So the problem we have with the angle is, here's this magnet that's holding it down, and I'm sliding my sharpener across it like this. But my knife isn't on the same angle as the base plate. If it was, it would have to sit like that. See the center line of the knife? Because the spine of the blade is this thick, the center of it here, the center of the thickness is right there. At least you want it to be the center of the point where you're sharpening. So if it was like that, you'd have one angle, but because it's like this, now you have a different angle, a sharper angle. So that's what this doesn't make up for. If I have another knife that is like this, except for it's not a full flat grind, instead it is a Saber Grind. Let me show you what that looks like. So now we've got a Saber Grind. So part of the blade here is flat, and then you've got the bevel down to the point. And if the magnet is holding on that flat section, now it is parallel with it, with the base plate. And now the center point back here is in line with the center point there. And so the angle would be exactly what your angle finder says it is. So this way you can trust your angle finder to give you the exact degree, but this way you can't, because this angle is slightly different. Is that difference significant? No, but I know somebody's going to bring it up, and so I wanted to explain it in a way that was clear. So to adjust the angle, I can just loosen that screw, loosen this screw, put it down, and now I'm at 21.2 degrees, so I know I need to go down a little bit. Now there are numbers on the side of the steel here. They're basically useless, if you ask me. You could line it up using this screw, putting it in place and get it exactly on. But I think it's better just to have this post bottomed out and then tightened up, and then use your digital finder to find the angle every single time. I think that's a much wiser way to go. And so that's what I do. There we go. Hopefully it's clear on there. It says 20 degrees, 20.1 right now. Good enough. And put that away. And now I can do my sharpening. I can just start sharpening on the knife. Of course, this stone's not wet right now, and I'm not actually doing a sharpening job. You could look at my other video that I have on other devices on how to do a good stroke, what angles you want to go on, and all that other stuff. Watch my other sharpening videos for that stuff. That's not particular for this sharpening system, so I'm not going to talk in any great detail about that. So I do all my sharpening, and when I want to do the other side, I take it off, and I put it on the other way, and I hold it. So that's the basic gist of it. Now, the reason I have this tray here is water. When you're sharpening, it takes a lot of water, unless you're using oil. I like to use water, and I have a little water pump, a bottle with soapy water in it. And so I spray off my stone, and that water runs down, and instead of getting all over the place, it stays in this cookie sheet. And, you know, that's a good thing. On this device, you have rubber feet, and that's a good thing, and they hold very well. You do have to be careful. It comes without this piece assembled on here, so you've got 2 thumb screws there to assemble it. There's instructions on how to do that just right, and it is important that you do that just right. And with the rubber feet, it holds it in place. It doesn't slide all over the place, and that's a good thing. The magnet section is in here, and I'm going to show you an even more top-down view to show you how this section of the knife sharpener works. And let's do that right now. I'm having a tough time getting the lighting just right for this, so I'm sorry. I've recorded this about 4 times already, and this whole video has taken me, I don't know, about 30 hours of work already. So I hope you guys like it. I'm going to show you how to adjust this the way I adjust it to make use of a knife, to sharpen a knife. So I've got this knife, and we've got a bit of a harpoon style shape. So it comes down, and then it comes up for a section, then comes back down again. Now, I'll have the knife not touching all 3 spots, like this high spot, that one, and this one. It'll just be touching these 2 when it faces that way, and these 2 when it faces that way. What I like to do is I like to align the cutting edges close to the end of the base plate as possible, and I use those corners as reference points. So if I put this down, the corner of the knife right here, the frame of the handle, that's going to touch the side of the base plate here. So it goes that way and then touches. So let's do that. So it's touching right there. And then I want this corner, the blade, to be just over that corner there. And then I want the blade to be just over this corner right here. So now it's a little bit high. So let's move it down just a tiny bit. And I'm keeping these 2 edges here parallel with the base. There we go. So if these 2 edges are parallel, that's good. Now I'm going to adjust this orange plate to come up and touch the knife. And so it's touching. I snug it up, and it's touching. So right even with the corner here, right even with the corner here, and swinging around. So now when I turn this over and put it on the opposite way, this corner should touch the side of the base plate, and it should be even on these 2 points as well. So let's test that out. So we put it down. That's a good magnet on there. And we push it down so it touches that spot there, and it touches that spot there. And voila, even with the corner, perfect. So now I am sharpening this center point of this blade. It's at the exact same spot as it is when I do it this way. So the center of the blade is the same distance away from the pivot point, and exactly, no matter which way I turn the knife. And that's what you want to have, so that you've got an even grind when you grind your blade. So that's how you adjust. That's how I adjust this. So I think I've covered all the different parts of it. One other thing that I didn't mention before, we've got a wooden handle. So it's genuine wood, very comfortable, nice egg shape. I like that a lot. Very comfortable. Let me see what else. I've covered this, covered that. I like this joint right here. That works very well. I have found a couple times that nylon sleeve can move back and forth a little bit, and you just have to adjust a little bit. Not a big deal. What else is there to say about this thing? Not much. It's a very simple device, but the execution of it is what makes it worth, I think it's worth what they're charging for it. This is quite a bit less than my TS Prof sharpening system, but would I have this replace my TS Prof sharpening system? No. I think I'm using this in addition to my TS Prof because it likes full flat grinds better than my TS Prof does, although my TS Prof now has an adapter that works very well for full flat grinds. But still, I like this quite a lot as well, to put my knife on there and just move it around. Very good design. Here's my list of biggest pros. No tools needed to assemble it. I like that. It's easy and comfortable to use, especially because of the wood on the handle and the springs in here. Very, very nice. It accepts almost any stone, thanks so very much to this adjustment being so long and this flat part here. And I do have a wide variety of stones that I use, so that's a really good thing. The magnet here is very strong. It's easy to adjust for almost any size of a knife. You can sharpen really big knives with this. You've got a very wide range here for the angle that you're going to find because of the length of this rod. I like the square. I've mentioned that a couple times. What are the cons? Well, small blades can be tricky, and a lot of small blades simply won't work, and I'll show you that in a minute. Odd shapes can be tricky. Blades that have a really weird design. I really like wee knives, and I can't sharpen this because when I put this on here, I can't have this thing line up in such a way that I'm going to get the same angle each time. Because it's so short and the magnets always are pulling towards the center, it's holding this on a weird wobble. It's totally loose here. I can't get it to, stay exactly the same way each time. If I go back to the other side, keep the thumb stud off, it just is wobbly in there. And so I can't do wee knives. And that's, for me, that's a con because I like doing wee knives. But thankfully, I've got more than one sharpening system, so it's no problem at all. And that brings me to a little piece of advice for most of you guys, and that is don't try to find one sharpening system that'll do everything for you. That doesn't exist. But there might be one sharpening system that does most of the things for you, and then you just find different ways of doing those few things that you can't do with that one sharpening system. And this system can do a lot. It just can't do everything, just like everything else. Do I think this knife sharpening system is worth the price that they're asking for it? Yes, it is. If your budget is just too tight that you can't get something more expensive than this, would I recommend this? Definitely, I would recommend this. Is it the be-all, end-all? No, nothing is. Will I be keeping this or selling it off? I'm going to be keeping this. It's good enough for me to keep, and I like it well enough for that, no problem, because it can do some things a little bit better than some of my other sharpening systems. And that brings me back to a point that I already made. There is no one system that'll do everything, and so if you can get more than one system, great. And I just happen to be so very fortunate, since I'm a reviewer, that I got this at no charge to me. That being said, I've tried to be as objective as I can. I have told you the cons that I found and my genuine opinions of this system. So, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. Thank you very much to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. And anybody who comments regularly, there's a number of you guys who do that. That really helps my algorithms, helps get a better ranking for my videos, and that's a good thing. And even you guys who like to put the thumbs down on things, that helps my algorithms too, because YouTube doesn't care if it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's an interaction, and whenever you interact with the system, it makes it more popular. So thank you very much, guys. So remember, my friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.